On Saturday, March 2nd at 2:48 a.m., the unmanned test flight of SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft took off, heading towards the International Space Station. This test flight not only marks the beginning of the return of the United States to manned spaceflight from its own soil, but this is the first truly new man-rated spacecraft to fly since the launch of the first space shuttle flight in 1981. This test flight is also the first launch of a man-rated spacecraft owned and operated by a private company. On board were supplies for the International Space Station, as well as a test dummy outfitted with sensors to measure the loads that a person would experience during launch, flight, docking, and re-entry. Now here's a recording of the actual launch.
T-minus 30 seconds. Stage 1, pressing for flight. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stage 1 throttle bucket.
Power and telemetry nominal. For those of you just joining us, you are watching a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket as it ascends through the atmosphere carrying the SpaceX Dragon 2 capsule to
Vehicle
orbit.
is super sound.
The vehicle just passed through max Q, which is the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. As you can hear in the background, the excitement at SpaceX headquarters is unbelievable here.
Stage 1
The
throttle
vehicle
up.
is passing through max Q.
You heard that call out from max Q on the nets. The Falcon 9 actually throttles down its 9 Merlin engines to reduce aerodynamic loads on the vehicle. It is now throttling those engines back up. Coming up at T plus 2 minutes and 35 seconds is going to be three events in quick succession. The first one is going to be the main engine cutoff, or MECO. That's when the 9 Merlin 1D engines that you can see on your screen right now will cut off shortly before a stage separation at 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Shortly after that, the Merlin vacuum engine on the bottom of the second stage of the Falcon 9 will ignite in what we call second engine start, or SES. That'll be at 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So stand by for main engine cutoff, stage separation, and second engine start coming up in just about 20 seconds from now. As you can hear from the cheering here at SpaceX headquarters, we did have a successful main engine cutoff, a stage separation, and as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, that second stage engine is currently started and accelerating Dragon towards orbit. On the left-hand side of your screen, that is a view from the first stage as it makes its way back down towards the Earth. Let's go down to Lauren and Dan for updates on that first stage recovery.
All right, so as you can just see, we lifted off. We had an awesome liftoff of stage 1, and stage 2 is burning beautifully. Stage 1 also has a secondary mission that it is performing right now, which is getting ready to come back to the drone ship and land. So stage 1 is going to execute 2 burns before landing on the drone ship. The first is the entry burn start, which is starting at T plus 7 minutes and 48 seconds approximately. That's where 3 of the M1D engines will reignite. And what that burn does is it slows down stage 1 as it re-enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. If we didn't do that, that aerodynamic re-entry heating, the aero heating would heat up stage 1 and it would potentially break it apart. So we got to slow it down. From there, stage 1 is going to coast its way back down using those grid fins to help steer it, and then it'll execute the landing burn. That's going to happen at T plus 9 minutes and 24 seconds. That's where we're going to reignite that center E9 engine to hopefully bring stage 1 down to a beautiful stop right on the drone ship.
That's right, and while all that's happening, the second stage, which you can see glowing bright here, continuing to power Dragon, it's going to continue burning until just about 9 minutes after launch. So at 8 minutes and 59 seconds is where it's targeted to cut off. Down to a single engine, but that one providing a little over 200,000 pounds of thrust to carry Dragon through the upper parts of Earth's atmosphere. Not as much resistance to fight against once you're up this high. And it's going to get Dragon into that initial orbit, and it's still going to be a couple hundred kilometers beneath the station, and then it'll be turned over to thrusters on Dragon once it separates from that second stage to then begin the chase down of the orbiting laboratory. But 5 minutes, 11 seconds and counting past launch. All the calls so far indicating nominal performance. So we're continuing to see great stuff so far from both stages of Falcon 9.
Okay, we're hearing that MVAC is performing nominally. It's looking good on power. Temperatures are good. And stage 1 continues to come back nominally. And look over there on the left on your screen, you see that picture of Ripley and that 0G indicator.
That's right. Keep an eye out as long as we have the view. As soon as Dragon's separated and it's essentially then in its free flight mode, you're going to see that little planet Earth start to float up. So keep an eye out once we separate Dragon in just a couple of minutes from now. 6 minutes past launch.
Trajectory continues to be nominal on stage 2. Still have about 2.5 more minutes left of this burn, at which point MVAC will shut down. We're just under a minute away from that entry burn on stage 1 that I mentioned before. Second stage burn continues to burn nominally.
That's right, we're over 7 minutes since that liftoff. Feels like it was 30 seconds ago. Continuing to carry Dragon up. It's going to make it to that initial orbit after it separates. The separation coming about a minute after that second stage cutoff.
Stage 2 propellant tank pressures are looking good. The burn continues to be healthy. Now coming up in about 10 seconds, that entry burn is going to start. Hopefully we'll have onboard video and you'll be able to watch. Let's listen in on the callouts.
Stage 1 FTS is safe.
Stage 1 entry burn has started.
Look at that plume. Switch 3 N1D engines reigniting. Burn is going to continue on for about another 18 or so seconds.
As So a little back-to-back action now as we see stage 1 coming back down towards Earth, stage 2 still making its way up into outer space. The Dragon still nestled on top, getting ready.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And there's the end of that stage 1 shutdown.
Stage 2 is under terminal 1.
Okay, so stage 1 is going to continue to coast its way down using those grid fins for attitude control and steering.
Next
and in just under a
Stern ship, AOS.
Ah, that's right. It's coming up in about 10 seconds. INVAC's throttling down for SECO.
Stage 1 is transonic.
And we have had a successful shutdown. INVAC. All right. Stage 1 landing burn is supposed to start. At the start of that burn, stage 1 will be traveling at 275 meters per second. That single engine burn is going to bring that from 275 to 0.
We did just hear that stage 1 landing burn has started.
All right, let's see if we get it. About 500 kilometers away from where it launched from. The vehicle will now undergo its safing procedures, and the recovery team will make sure it's strapped down and it'll make its way back to Earth. Or sorry, back to Cape Canaveral. It's already on it. So there's still a lot more to go here. We have Dragon separation coming up. Let's go back to Tom Perderio to cover that next big milestone.
Wow, what a landing. Coming up very shortly in just about 20 seconds here. The Dragon spacecraft is going to be separating from the top of the Falcon 9 rocket. Separation should be occurring around 11 minutes and 5 seconds. Just about now. Let's wait for confirmation.
Dragon, separation confirmed.
And there it is. You're looking at a view from the top of the second stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. And hard to make out in the shadow of the Earth, but that is the Dragon 2 spacecraft flying in space for the first time after a successful separation.
After orbiting the Earth for a little over a day and catching up with the International Space Station, the DM-1 Dragon spacecraft began its approach to the space station. Here is video of that docking.
Live view of Dragon spacecraft as it approaches the International Space Station for a planned docking in just under 2.5 hours from now. That you can see on your screen is indeed the Dragon 2 spacecraft on a view on the National Space Station.
And to put into perspective how fast everything's moving, a commercial airplane cruises at about 550 miles per hour. Takes about 5 hours to go from LA to New York City. If you were able to fly as fast as Dragon, you could cover that distance in just 8.5 minutes.
And you can actually see what Dragon has been doing over the past 24 hours right now on your screen. Immediately after that Dragon spacecraft separated from the Falcon 9 rocket, it began what we call the activation and rendezvous phase of the mission. During this phase, mission operators configured the vehicle for on-orbit operations, and Dragon executed a series of burns which gradually raised its orbit to align more closely with the ISS. A final co-elliptic burn, which started at about 9:59 p.m. here at local time in Hawthorne, placed Dragon into the same orbital plane of the ISS, about 2.5 kilometers below and 7 kilometers behind, which had then prepared it for its approach and autonomous docking maneuvers.
Now we actually have some views inside of Dragon still, and we're going to get those hopefully throughout the webcast today. And we're going to be able to see that hatch open in just a couple of hours from now. And you can kind of make it out. Our zero-G indicator looks to have hopped out of its seat.
This is Mission Control Houston. You are getting a live view of the Dragon spacecraft now just about 3,000 meters away from the International Space Station. At this time, the International Space Station about to enter into an orbital nighttime 266 statute miles above the Earth, just south of Australia. Again, about to enter an orbital nighttime. You'll see the views get a little bit darker. At this point, Dragon has completed its approach initiation burn. We are now in integrated operations. A few more milestones to hit. In just under 8 minutes at this point, we're looking for a mid-course burn, an approach initiation mid-course burn to look forward to. Not too long after that, we'll enter into the 1,000 meter or kilometer range from the International Space Station. All right, and so this is our first view from the camera on Dragon. So this is a forward view, so right on the end of the nose, well, right where the nose cone used to be, no longer covering it, but right by the docking port for the Dragon spacecraft. So that's actually a view back at the International Space Station. Those white ribbons that you're looking at are radiators on board the station. Those are used to get rid of all the heat generated by the electronics and all the various systems on board.
Dragon is getting very close at the International Space Station. You can see some intermittent views here from Dragon's transmission to the ground. Looks like the space station has come around into the light. Looks pretty beautiful. We will get even more detailed pictures of that as the Dragon gets closer and closer to the forward port that it's about to dock with. Right here you can see the overlay that the crew would be seeing if they were inside Dragon right now. There is a little green dot in the very center that's currently tracking the docking port, and if Dragon tilts away from it, it should stay tracked. But right now, since we're getting this on the ground, this would normally be overlaid over the centerline camera. Right now, we're getting this feed from a different camera that's a little bit off center, so it's not going to be exactly on all the time, but it will simulate what a Dragon astronaut would be seeing if they were in the commander's seat on those touchscreen displays.
All right, and we just heard confirmation that Dragon is now inside of the Keep Out Sphere. Now again, the Keep Out Sphere is an imaginary circle around the International Space Station of about 200 meters. All right, and we just heard the conversation there from Ann McLean back down to Houston, so we're past waypoint number 1, and the retreat command has been sent. So we're actually going to see Dragon kind of stop here.
Waypoint 2 is that gray dot that's in the very, very close to the International Space Station, the diagram you're seeing on your screen right now, just to give you an idea of the scale of the distances we're seeing. And on your screen, you can see the Draco thrusters firing of that Dragon. Right now, it's a little bright. The contrast is a little off, but you can see the every time one of those Draco thrusters fires, you can see its exhaust gases spewing away from the Dragon. It's a great view right there.
It is. It's great to get some views from the station side of Dragon, yeah. And hopefully once it gets in close, we'll get some views from those cameras right on the end of the docking adapter. But it's always cool to see the thrusters fire in space too. Look at them go.
Reminder that Dragon is a totally autonomous vehicle. It's station keeping. It's holding its position all by itself right now. Those are all the Dragon flight computers making minute adjustments whenever it feels it needs to stay pointed and in the right position.
And we got an update. Dragon now about 160 meters away from the station, so still moving back. Again, slow and steady wins the race with everything today. We're just trying to make sure everything works, but continuing to back away. We're at 160 again. We're going out to 180, and then the crew should be sending a hold command to the spacecraft.
What you're seeing on your screen right now is what the overlay that the astronauts in the ISS are seeing. This is actually from the centerline camera on board the Dragon, and you're seeing the docking system overlay that if you were on the International Space Station looking at that laptop, you'd be able to see the Dragon approaching and getting closer and closer to the International Docking Adapter.
Station Houston on 1, Dragon is resuming approach to waypoint 2, monitor per step 7 in 1.102, Dragon approach and retreat monitor.
Dragon is currently resuming its approach towards waypoint 2. Again, after that commanded retreat, it went back out to 180, maybe 170, 180 meters away, was commanded to hold, and it has just been given the go-ahead to re-approach back to waypoint 2. You can start to see the space station in great detail here. Again, this is from a view of the forward media cam at the top of the Dragon 2 module. Just to reiterate, this camera is not directly on the center line of the docking axis. This is a fantastic view of Dragon in the sunlight from the International Space Station. So normally when we're getting views from the Dragon for this webcast, you're going to be seeing a camera that's not quite on the center line, so it's a little bit off, and it may not look like we're heading directly towards the docking adapter, but if we're lucky enough, we might get some views from the centerline camera in the very center of the hatch from the space station, and you can see us kind of headed on right in. But right now, this is an unbelievable view from the space station. You can see Dragon 2 in full light with its nose cone open, its soft capture ring deployed. You can actually start to see those 3 pedals that I was talking about earlier on that ring, 120 degrees apart. That ring is extended above the hatch by 6 hexapod arms that are all attached to Dragon by springs. So that will be the first part of Dragon to make contact with the ISS. And when it does, those springs will compress and absorb and dampen any of the relative velocity differences between the space station and Dragon. This soft capture system was actually subjected to extensive testing and the 6 degree of freedom dynamic test system at NASA Johnson, and this was actually the very same system they used to test other docking systems at NASA.
And we're hearing that Dragon is now at waypoint 2, about 20 meters away from station. So again,
Station
Dragon's
Houston
just
in
going to
1,
hold
20
here.
meter hold confirm. Perform step 8 in 1.102, Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
So the light you're seeing is both light from the International Space Station pointed at Dragon, and then the docking light, which is the bright spot in the center of Dragon's hatch you can see right now. Right now, Dragon's flight computer is using those Draco thrusters, as you can see them firing on your screen to
Station Houston in 1, Dragon is resuming approach and is go for docking. Monitor per steps 9 and 10 in 1.102, Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
Station copies. Vehicle mode is approach to docking port. Primary range is decreasing. Vehicle is centered.
Copy all.
And getting good reports from Ann McClain there on board the International Space Station. Dragon is approaching, everything in on the center, and still looking good. So the crew is using that centerline camera on the Dragon spacecraft just to do all of their final monitoring of the vehicle. This camera a little off center. This is not the one the crew's using, but this is one that we have. But you can see now that international docking adapter. It's attached to a larger black piece of the station. That's a pressurized mating adapter, which is then attached to actually one of the modules, which is known as Node 2 in the Harmony. It's the Harmony module. So Dragon continuing to close in. It's expected to take just about 5 minutes or so, and there's a great side-by-side look. One view on your left from Dragon, one view on your right from the International Space Station.
On the view on the left from Dragon looking at the space station, we can finally see those details of the International Docking Adapter. The IDA is a passive system, and the Dragon contains all the active components of that docking system. You can actually see those those androgynous petals, those 3 petals that are kind of sticking at 120 degrees apart from each other on the IDA on the left-hand side. In the very middle is actually a visual docking target that the astronauts can use to judge whether or not the Dragon is right on course. It has a little stick that comes off from the center of it, so you can see the stick's shadow and determine whether or not you're directly on center in all 3 axes. Like Dan said, this camera view on the left from Dragon is not the centerline camera. It's actually the forward media cam.
Range is 9.5 and decreasing. Vehicle is centered. Largest excursion observed is less than half a meter. And less than half a degree.
Copy.
All right, we're inside 10 meters. Halfway there.
Like I was saying, this camera view right here is just a little bit off center from the center line, so it may look like we're not approaching that IDA directly head on, just because the camera's not in the right position, but the crew has that center line camera, which is directly dead on, and as long as we keep hearing these good callouts, it sounds like Dragon is dead right where it needs to be. And there it is, there's that center line camera view that the crew in the International Space Station is using. They use the overlays to figure out, and that visual docking guide right there to make sure that Dragon is exactly where it needs to be as it approaches. On the right-hand side, you can start to see the mechanisms of the SpaceX docking system aboard the Dragon. The very first part of Dragon that will make contact with the ISS is that soft capture ring. You can see it's extended forward from the hatch of the Dragon right now. As soon as those pedals make contact, latching pawls will engage and hold the pedals against the opposite ones on the IDA, and contact pins will depress, and we should hear the call out for soft capture achieved.
Crew hands off point.
Copy.
All right, so we're at that crew hands-off point. That means we're about 2 meters away. Crew no longer sending commands. Dragon doing everything on its own.
Soft capture confirmed.
Station concurs.
You can hear the cheers behind us at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. We have confirmation of a soft capture of the Dragon spacecraft to the International Space Station. You can see in your view the Dragon still moving around a little bit. That's the soft capture ring is attached to Dragon by way of 6 arms that are all attached to springs that help dampen the motion, the difference in the relative velocities between the Dragon and the space station.
And you're probably hearing some
Station
cheers
Houston
behind us.
1, we can confirm hard capture is complete.
Hard capture complete.
Excellent news.
That means that
Congratulations once again to the Zooch team around the world to make this possible.
The second set of rings was fully retracted
And we concur
are
to
fully
the
actuated, and the
successes
Dragon is
of
now
the
hard
entire teams around the world.
After docking, it was about 2 hours before they could begin opening the hatch. This is because they had to pressurize the space in between the 2 spacecraft and do leak and other checks.
Station on at 1 minute. VPT is 0. Proceeding to the hatch.
Copy and concur.
Moscow is good. Good, it was good,
Средства связи, кому необходимый выход. Пошел наш.
Back to nominal complete. Now moving on to step 5.2.
Да, все принято. И теперь в взгляде, Валик, остаемся. Дальше выполняем.
Houston Station on node 24 forward hatch.
Have a copy. We are turning on the fan and starting our 15-minute timer.
Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. What you're seeing now is Canadian Space Agency astronaut David St. Jacques opening the hatch into the pressurized mating adapter. On the other side there, you can see another hatch. This is the hatch that'll actually open up into the international docking adapter and allow and in between the international docking adapter and the Dragon capsule.
On one for
Still a lot of procedures for David St. Jacques, and you saw NASA astronaut Anne McLean floating there as well. This is part of the ingress and basically pressurizing the vestibule and getting the pressure equalized between the International Space Station and Dragon and the International Docking Adapter in between, making sure that it's safe to open up the hatch. Once they do open up the hatch, they'll be on hardline oxygen, and that will be reflected once we do the hatch opening coverage here in just a few hours. David St. Jacques and Anne McLean will be conducting these procedures over the next about hour or so. And then in about 2 hours, we'll come back and we'll start broadcasting live to start doing the actual hatch opening coverage, where you see that soft cover in the background open, and the station crew members will go inside. We'll actually provide live views from the inside of Dragon, if we are receiving them at that time. A lot of work to do for the International Space Station crew members until we come back on for hatch opening coverage. This is Mission Control Houston.
And Station Houston on 1, Anne and David, want to let you know that we're going to move our USOS ops back over to Space to Ground 2. We have returned RSA-2 over to Call 5, so you should have eye contact. And copy your thumbs up.
Moving over to 2.
And Station Houston on 2, for your guys' awareness, the 15-minute timer will expire at 11:25.
Copy. Timer expiring in 10 minutes.
That's a good readback.
Once these tasks were accomplished, they could begin the process of opening the hatches between the two spacecraft and make an initial entry to check the air quality.
So it looks like a pose for one final picture before they go in. They're looking great up there.
Houston, Station 1-2, com check. That is a good com check. And can you confirm that you can hear both Oleg and David in their epicas?
Yes, we have good communication between crew members.
All right, you are go to proceed. You have a go in step 7.1.
All right, and so with that go, and you heard 7.1, so that's the next step in their procedures, and that's for them to actually go in and start opening up the hatch. 7.1 is to move in close to the hatch. 7.2 is to open the hatch. So we are right there. So everyone keep an eye out. We should see that hatch opening momentarily. Again, you're going to see Oleg and David up at the hatch and hanging back in node 2.
Hopefully on the left-hand side of the screen, inside the Dragon capsule, we might be able to see some of that hatch open activity.
Yeah, it's really unique to have this perspective to have from both sides. So standing by for hatch open.
Houston Station, Dragon hatch opened at 13:07.
Copy.
And there you have it. Dragon hatch is open. Ann McClain made the call. It was 5:07 a.m. Pacific. I think 8:07 a.m. Eastern time. I'm doing some quick math in my head, and that's the International Space Station and Dragon docked together, flying over the northern Atlantic, about 255 statute miles in the air. So the Dragon hatch is open. You can see an arm reaching in.
This is the very first time that humans have been on orbit inside of a Dragon 2 capsule. Or any, excuse me, not any Dragon, a Dragon 2 capsule.
All right, again, so it looks like David St. Jacques, he's going to be the first one through. He's going to take some quick atmospheric readings. He's using a device that we have over on the U.S. side. There he is, David inside of Dragon. Human beings inside the Dragon spacecraft.
You might hear some cheers here from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne. This is just an incredible sight for the SpaceX team to see these ISS crew members inside the capsule.
And so they're going to use these two separate devices, David using one and Oleg Kononenko using another. And it takes them a couple of minutes usually for the sample readers to gather what they need. And then they'll move back outside of Dragon. And again, just compare this to the generic background readings that we have inside of another module on board the station. They should be heading over to the Destiny module, just basically two doors down from Dragon now. And they'll compare that, and then once everything looks good, the teams expect to wait about half an hour, and then they'll start mixing the air between Dragon and the International Space Station. Our 0G indicator getting a little bump there.
He is now free to move about the cabin.
And again, if you're just now joining us, the hatch is open inside of the Dragon spacecraft. Right now, two of the crew members from Expedition 58 are inside, just taking some atmospheric readings. It's Oleg Kononenko from the Russian Space Agency, Roscosmos, and David St. Jacques from the Canadian Space Agency. Once they get what they need, they'll move back outside, compare the results to some readings just from another module on board the station. You can actually see one of them. So the cargo that Dragon delivered is just underneath the seats. There's about 400 pounds, a little over 400 pounds in total.
You can see them inspecting some of those cargo bags down there.
Oh. Can you tell we're in microgravity?
It's been indicated.
right, again, if you're just now tuning in, you're seeing human beings inside of the Crew Dragon spacecraft. It's David St. Jacques and Oleg Kononenko from Expedition 58. They're already moving some of the cargo around. They're in there taking some atmospheric readings. That hatch was opened at 5:07 a.m. Pacific, 8:07 a.m. Eastern, while the station was flying just about 255 statute miles over the northern Atlantic. Getting our split screen view back, so the one on the left, that camera is inside of Dragon. That camera on the right is inside of Node 2, looking down the pressurized mating adapter into the Dragon spacecraft. Hatch open.
That white box moving around inside the international docking adapter right there is one of the pieces of cargo that Dragon took up. As Dan said, that cargo is stored down below the crew area, below where the seats are. And it looks like they are already transferring some of that cargo out. A while ago we talked about the differences between docking and berthing. One of the big advantages of docking, obviously, is that it's autonomous and the spacecraft itself can initiate and complete the process. But the hatch size is a lot smaller because of those necessary docking equipment. They're all around the edge of the hatch.
Yeah, you can actually get a really easy comparison with this view. So obviously the docking hatch is that small circle you see way in the foreground. This square shape that you can see Anne McLean just at on the screen on the right, that is a common berthing mechanism. So when the cargo dragons arrive, that's what they ultimately get bolted to. So you can see just kind of how much more clearance that can give a vehicle. But that does require you to actually bolt or attach and then bolt the spacecraft to that mechanism. You can't just fly in and dock like Dragon did earlier this morning.
That's why it's important to have a healthy ecosystem of spacecraft that are capable of visiting the space station to transport both humans and cargo of various sizes.
Yeah, that's also why we use the pressurized mating adapter. That's in some of the external views you've seen a large black structure that the Dragon is docked to, and that's essentially to turn a square hole into a circular hole. And that just allows you to change the type of docking adapter that you're able to put on there. It looks like we got some cargo coming out.
I know I've said it before, but hard to believe that thing was sitting on top of a Falcon 9 only 27 hours ago.
Now, after all of this was done, and the air quality assured, it was time for the Crew Dragon welcome ceremony.
Good morning. International Space Station is speaking. I'm Oleg Kononenko, Expedition 50 commander from Russia. David St. Jacques, flight engineer from Canada. Anne McLean, flight engineer from USA. On behalf of my crew, I would like to congratulate the United States of America and the NASA team with this significant event, successful launch and dock of SpaceX Crew Dragon spaceship. It's honor and pride for us to meet with this spaceship here on board the International Space Station and to become a part of important mission for the U.S. space program and a historical step on our way and historical step all way of a human being beyond maybe low Earth orbit to the Moon and Mars in the future.
Hello, bonjour. Of course, honored and privileged to be here on this important day. We're standing in Node 2, the very forward end of Space Station, where the space shuttles used to dock. And now we have a brand new vehicle that's come this morning, flawless operations, the result of years of work, thousands of people around the world among many teams. And it was a beautiful thing to see. Of course, SpaceX is all about teamwork, collaboration. Today we welcome the brand new spacecraft to Space Station, a great new addition to the quiver of tools we have, humans, to further space exploration. This is a good day, first day of a new era for the next generation of space explorers.
Our sincere congratulations to all Earthlings who have enabled the opening of this next chapter in space exploration. To the International Space Station teams, past and present, who stand guard 24 hours a day at control centers from Moscow to Japan, Germany to Houston. Congratulations to the teams at SpaceX and Boeing, who have been working diligently to define what this new era of commercial spaceflight will look like. And congratulations to all nations, private space firms, and individuals who wake up every day driven by the magic of exploration. This day belongs to all of us. Spaceflight gives us a chance to reflect on the context of our existence. We're reminded that we are human before any of our differences, before all of the lines that are drawn that divide us. And we are reminded that we're at our best when we are part of something bigger than ourselves. In 1957, just over 60 years ago, history changed when Russia launched Sputnik, the world's first artificial satellite. People across the globe gathered in backyards and looked up at the night sky hoping to catch a glimpse. A few years later, people of all nationalities gripped hands, hoping and praying for Yuri Gagarin's successful launch as he became the first human in space. And in 1969, every TV across the globe was tuned in as Buzz, Michael, and Neil embarked on the first human journey to the moon. Today, human advancement of exploration continues as the first new space vehicle designed for humans in over 40 years arrived at our front door, welcomed by our crew of 1 Russian, 1 Canadian, and 1 American who have been living together as family for 3 months aboard the International Space Station. These events remind us that we are more alike than different, that we can be united by a cause that is not based on fear, threat, or common enemy, but rather on a bold endeavor, an insatiable curiosity to go beyond what is known and to do what has never been done. We humans were built for exploration, and we were built to do it together. I think we should show off the newest space vehicle. On behalf of Ripley, Little Earth, myself, and our crew, welcome to the Crew Dragon. Congratulations to all of the teams who made yesterday's launch and today's docking a success. These amazing feats show us not how easy our mission is, but how capable we are of doing hard things. Welcome to the new era in spaceflight.
If you like this video, please press the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel, and also give it a thumbs up. You can also support this channel with a donation by using the link in the description.